Hello, everybody. Welcome to our live Facebook show, Ask Me Anything event. We have these every other Monday. We're open today. We've been open throughout the entire pandemic, and we're going to stay open. So 11 to 7 in the Raleigh office and 12 to 7 in the Durham office. I hope everyone had a great Thanksgiving. I want to welcome back to the set my partner over here, Michelle Kennedy.
I've missed you guys. It feels like it's been forever. Just I sat down, I was like, this feels like it's been so long. Yeah, I was out. Lovey was in 2 weeks ago and did phenomenal. If you have not watched that, please go back and watch that episode.
It was good. She
really
was really
good.
Believe it or not, she said she was nervous about being on the set. And she just took the set over once we got going, right? So
that's great.
Yeah, so it's easy to talk about stuff that you know, right?
Yes.
And I think that caught Lovey by surprise.
Yeah.
So we want to thank everybody for all the questions they sent in, and we've got some good ones today, and we're going to talk about.
Yeah, hope everyone had a wonderful Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
It seems surreal that tomorrow is December 1st, but here we are.
That's right.
Here we are. So yeah, hope everyone had a good time, and thanks for joining us this morning, the Monday back to the grind after having some time off.
Ugh.
All right.
Yeah. It reminds me of a song. There was this song I had on a Bon Jovi album, but so where he introduces a singer. Apparently famous in Great Britain, and it was obviously a concert there. Sir Bob Geldof, Knight of the British Empire, and he sang a song called "Why I Don't Like Mondays," and that's always stuck with me. I'm like,
Mondays can be rough.
They are, I'm against Monday. If there was a way to eliminate it somehow, I would do it.
Hence why we open late on Mondays, right?
That's exactly
keep that in mind in our practice. We open early on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Yeah. And when we have Express in Durham on Fridays, it's also early morning hours, but we also have late hours. So, we're open until usually 7:30 in the Raleigh office and between 8 and 8:30 typically in the Durham office. So.
And nobody wants to come late anymore now that we've had COVID. Because everyone's working from home, so they're not leaving from work and coming by the office anymore. So it's been kind of weird.
Yeah.
I'm ready for this thing to be over so we can get back to doing what we were doing, Anyway. I think all y'all feel the same way.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're going to get on to your questions here.
Yeah.
Stammering on. So you're going to start with the first question?
Yeah, I will. So Kendra L. from Durham sent us a really good question. We addressed this a little bit before. She asked, she hears when you begin a keto diet, you need to take in extra salt. Is this true? If so, how much should I be consuming on a regular basis? And the answer is that typically is true. A ketogenic diet will cause a reduction in the hormone is a and that makes us really good at storing body fat and not good at burning body fat. So when you engage in a ketogenic eating plan, your insulin levels drop, and subsequently the kidneys will release extra electrolytes, including sodium. And we need salt to live and to feel good and to maintain blood pressure and to not have the quote unquote keto flu symptoms. That's usually sodium based, sometimes magnesium as well, or other electrolytes like potassium. But salt is such a great way to make you feel good when you're transitioning on a ketogenic diet. There's different types of salt. I'm a big fan of pink salt, including that, and sea salt, but you can also do pickles, olives, broth, other salty snacks like the chips, like the protein chips and things. So getting salt in is really, really important.
Yeah, I think that there's kind of some different thoughts on this, but when you begin to make you burn fat because the insulin level drops, and you make these molecules called ketones, and they get excreted from your kidney into your urine. And many of you have tried testing with urine test strips for those ketones. And what happens is sodium follows the ketones. Think of it that way. So if the ketones are getting out in your urine, bam, sodium's going with it. You get this drop in your serum sodium level, and this is primarily, this is good in many ways, but because you're not used to it, what happens is you get these kind of keto flu symptoms. And so the idea is you want to replace the salt. And many people who go on these diets, a ketogenic diet, will tell you that when they replace the salt, the symptoms of the keto flu get a lot better, which primarily happen during the first week, by the way, those symptoms, right?
Yeah.
So I have colleagues around the country who teach these diets exclusively. And in many cases, I'm going to say some stuff here that may shock you, but in many cases, they have their patients take 5 grams of salt. That's 5,000 milligrams of sodium a day. 5,000. Okay, so if you look at any kind of recommended daily allowance of sodium, it's down around 1,500, stuff like that. So the idea of taking 5 grams immediately scares a lot of people. But look, I think salt over the years and sodium has gotten a bad name. Because a lot of foods have sodium added to them for various reasons. But, to blame, it's like blaming the kid who's on the bus for the mechanical problem with the bus. You put the salt on the food or the sodium on the food and then say, oh, sodium's the problem, restrict your sodium, without ever dealing with the food. Okay. Conceptually, it's the food that's the problem.
Yeah.
And so when Michelle says this stuff about adding the sodium, and I'm sitting here talking about this about adding the sodium, I want to assure you that when you go into the ketosis, this doesn't cause some sort of gigantic rise in blood pressure or anything. And so now you're starting to eat the correct kind of things. Your body's beginning to function like historically it always did. And you won't get this sort of out of control sodium blood pressure thing that most people imagine because they've heard this sort of thing over the years, right?
Right. There's actually a book, I think it's called The Salt Fix, that I read a couple years ago. And it addresses those misconceptions and falsities that we've been told, kind of like with fat, that it's all bad and salt is terrible and you have to be careful. And then, quite frankly, it's the ultra processed foods that come mostly in bags and boxes that have a lot of sodium as a preservative and as a flavor agent. Those are the things we need to be careful of. But when you're eating a whole foods, natural diet and being sensible about your intake, not many of those foods will naturally come with salt. So you need to make sure you're adding some of that salt. So if you're having any of those keto flu symptoms, especially add it. But then in general, people usually find they just feel better to continue a higher amount of salt than they had been prior to being on a keto diet.
Right. Yeah. So thanks for joining us. We're answering your questions. You can ask me anything event, right?
The last day of November. There we go.
You got it.
You want to take Kelly's question?
Yeah. Does your practice, Kelly from Apex asks, does your practice offer psychological services in conjunction with weight loss? So the quick answer is not formal services, no. Okay. Now, that being said, I think one of the 4 pillars of treating the disease of obesity is behavioral modification, which is a psychological tool. And so we're good at the very basics of that. Sometimes things are more complex, though, and you actually need a patient will actually need the services of a trained behavioral therapist. But the more common psychological things that you would expect with wanting to lose weight, we deal with day in and day out without even calling it a formal psychological service of any kind.
Absolutely. Yeah. We function in many roles here as medical providers at Dr. Simon's Metabolics and Weight Loss. And one of them is healthcare provider, right? Where we can diagnose and treat and guide you on, these treatment plans. But we also play support roles, cheerleader roles. And when we do our training, our conferences in obesity medicine with fellow providers around the nation, there is always at least 1 or 2 lectures on the psychological component and things like motivational interviewing, which if you've never heard of that, it is a extremely successful, simple, but it takes some time to master tool where we are trained in. We help people get to a place where they feel more comfortable with the behavior changes that they want to engage in, but don't really know where to start or how to motivate themselves. So we are, I would say, very good at helping people get to that next level that they need to be without any formal psychological counseling on site. Now, we live luckily in the Triangle region of North Carolina. So if you are a local patient, there are many, many practices where you could go through your insurance to find a licensed practical counselor or social worker to sit down and talk with in therapy more formally. But a lot of our patients, they get it here during their visits when they're.
And we never judge you. We're here for your emotional support. And, I would just say, when you look at Yeah, I remember kind of when I was learned about psychotherapy, it's like, okay, the therapist has you sit down, and then you, the patient, are the one doing the talking.
Mhm.
They're not telling you what to do. They're just guiding you in the conversation. And so we do a lot of that without thinking about it. Okay. In other words, the patient will describe the problem.
Mhm.
And then the therapist will say, this is psychotherapy. Or they'll say, well, what do you think would be a good solution to the problem? Okay. Conceptually, this is how it goes. So in some cases, the patient knows, in other cases, they don't, but you want them to arrive at the conclusion, okay, and then to try it, and then to have them come back and see whether it worked, okay, because it may or may not work, and maybe you need a different solution. But a lot of times you want the patient to arrive at the conclusion, that to be able to define the problem, which is key. You can't fix a problem you don't know, and to come up with a solution, try the solution, see whether it works. And then at this point, they're fully invested, and we're just guiding you along that way. So some psychological problems are way more complex than that. But that probably represents the great majority of people that we see. And I'm surprised at how fast my patients, in fact, many times on the first visit, they fill out the paperwork, they immediately identify the problems. Okay. And I can say, well, how are we going to fix those things? And in most cases, they immediately identify the solution.
And remember, that being successful is how you continue to feel motivated. And our goal is to, of course, help you improve your health, but to help you feel empowered and to help you feel like you're accomplishing something. And that is also, I think, what makes this specialty so rewarding, is empowering patients to do the things that they know they should be and want to be doing. They just need the assistance to get to that point where it becomes more of a lifestyle instead of a battle day in and day out, where it's so much work. So that's an excellent question, Kelly. We're doing our own psychological counseling and therapy every day with patients, and if they need further help, which some do, and that's absolutely fine, then finding someone in the community is the next best option.
Yes. All right. So this next question is right up your alley.
So Mike W. from Raleigh says, what's all the hype I'm hearing about bone broth? Is it really good for fasting? So for the patients who see me primarily, or Courtney, our wonderful dietitian here in the Raleigh location, you will hear us talk about bone broth a lot. Yeah. We are big fans. So bone broth is simply a broth made from the bones or the carcass of an animal, right? So when you cook a whole turkey or chicken and you have the bones left over, or if you get knuckle bones maybe from beef or spinal bones, vertebrae, if you put that in a big pot with water and salt and let it simmer for a while, or slow cook it or pressure cook it, you're going to extract an extraordinary amount of nutrients from those bones, right? Bones are not just like little rocks that hold us together. They are packed with nutrients that we don't find in animal muscle meats.
That's right.
And one of the main things that we get from bone broth, which gives it kind of a good rap, is gelatin and collagen, which are protein, like compounds that help build the matrix of our skin. It's the elasticity of our skin. It's the strength of our bones. It's the cartilage in our joints. Yep. It's our nails. It's our hair. Collagen is very important. And the amino acids that make up collagen, again, are just not found in high quantities in the chicken breast or the pork loin. So it's a great place to get nutrients that a lot of us aren't getting in our diet. Do you drink bone broth?
On occasion, I do.
Yeah.
I don't make it myself.
Right.
Though.
And you can buy it. That's a really important thing. But you don't have to, simmer it for hours if it's not for you and you don't want to handle the bones. You can buy it in cartons. It's perfect.
Yeah, you'll find. If you delve into most places around the globe, whether it's a world religion or a culture of people, they put a real value on bone marrow and its its ability to promote life. And so this is something that's been around a long time. I mean, Westerners, we have not thought about this, but we weren't the first that ever arrived on the scene. I hate to break it to you, we're just the latest. And so we're figuring out that, hey, this is, this is something that's probably very beneficial, and it's been going on a long time in many cultures around the globe. So.
Yeah, and it kind of ties into the concept of nose to tail eating. If you've never heard that, that's, pretty much trying to make sure that if an animal's life is sacrificed for your sustenance, you use as many parts, if not every single part of that animal as you can. And that could lead into a conversation about the nutritional content of organ meats, which is not, again, in our culture, very accepted. However, the nutrient density of things like liver and heart really cannot be denied. But if you're not into it, that's okay. Just get some bone broth in a carton and you're ready to go. So it looks like we just added a quick recipe and instructions in the comments to make it yourself. So perfect. The producers made sure that you had that recipe. If you want to be brave, make your own bone broth, which it really, once you get what you need, it's not that hard to do. Try it. Otherwise, all right. So thanks, Mike. Great question. Let's cover Sarah. Yeah.
Sarah wants to know about the lipotropic injections and was wondering if we could tell her the benefits. I always like to preface this by saying, just so that there's I'm big on being straightforward with folks, right? So the FDA process of approval of medications for whatever the condition is pretty rigorous, right? And so there's a lot of things that we might offer that, and that the doctors or wherever offer, or companies offer to the general public that may have benefit that did not go through that FDA process. So there's no FDA approval for lipotropic injections to help you lose weight. I'm not aware of any company that's ever sought an approval. So I don't want to sit here and say there's some big study that was underwent scrutiny at the FDA to verify that this is a powerful tool for weight loss. Such studies don't exist to my knowledge. And so it's something that I think that patients generally like very much. And it may in fact be very beneficial, but I don't want to make any false claims. When we prescribe a medicine like phentermine to you, that has been studied and it has been approved. And there's some statements we can make about that, in fact, based on those studies. Okay, this sort of data doesn't exist for lipotropic injections, but for those of you who don't know what they are, they're compounded B vitamins with fat burners, essentially. And they're very popular in a lot of places because they tend to make patients feel more energetic and with more clear mind and better sleep and this sort of thing. And so they're offered in many diet programs, and many of my patients have been to a diet program that did them before and really liked the way they felt like that they were able to stay on track a lot better because they felt a lot better. So we offer them here, as long as you understand it's not necessarily a magic bullet for you. It's not meant to replace a prescription diet medication like phentermine, but it could be an adjunct that you use, and you could try them. And if you feel like they really help you, well, good. You can keep doing them, right? And there's no harm in them. And if you feel like they don't help you, you'll find we don't encourage you to keep spending money on them. Exactly. I mean, I wouldn't want you to buy stuff that's not working. That just makes me look bad. Yeah. So anyway, we have weekly specials on those, and you tell your friends about them because you don't necessarily have to be an active patient here to come get those. So a lot of patients have family members or friends that aren't patients here that come and get those, and we have a way that you can do that. I've been running a COVID special on those just to encourage people, really. So the deals are good on them.
Yeah, and, they are. They're really good.
I think it's helped a lot of people. We've had a huge response to those ever since we introduced them in our practice. And I've been so kind of felt bad for my patients over this whole COVID situation that we've run a permanent special, and I intend to run it through the end of this thing. Who knows when it's going to end? But a lot of people take advantage of that, and they're very thankful for it.
Yes. Yeah. And keep in mind, you don't need an appointment. You don't need to call ahead as long as it's during normal business hours. I will say, speaking to what Dr. Simons mentioned earlier, our evening hours in our offices, although those are standard business hours, We often do not have patients coming in the 7, 8 o'clock time frame. So sometimes we will close the office early. So if you're coming after 5 and you really want a set of shots, please call us. Let us know. We will absolutely stay and wait for you if we know you're coming. But if it's on your lunch break or when we first open, just waltz in. We get it done quickly. You're out of here within a few minutes.
That's right.
Yeah. All right. So I will take Morgan P's question from Durham. Thanks, Morgan, for sending this. And congratulations, I assume. The question is, how soon can I restart the keto diet after my pregnancy? We get these questions a lot. There's a lot of controversy, misunderstanding about different types of dietary plans other than what the government has told us we should be eating when it comes to pregnancy and breastfeeding. So I guess it's good to preface and say, we don't have any studies because we cannot ethically study women who are pregnant, and we don't have a lot of information on women who are nursing as well. And that goes for medication as well as, the dietary strategies. But then I will also say that there are many, many women who do keto throughout their pregnancy, throughout their nursing. And even if they don't, they start it immediately upon finishing their lactating. And they do absolutely fine when they're following the important, sensible salt intake guidelines and electrolyte balance and drinking enough water and minding their sleep. Of course, this is in the context of being monitored where you're doing the other things too. But I would say, Morgan, there is not a time frame you must wait following a pregnancy or lactation if you feel comfortable with it, especially if you have someone monitoring you and guiding you through it. Would you agree? Yeah,
there's some things you can study and there's some things you can't. Michelle's brought that out. And there's never going to be a study on this. The way we set up that system in this country, it just can't be done. The bottom line is no one's going to approve it. But, look, I try to make people understand this. I'm like, what do you think our ancestors were doing? Okay, we didn't always have the FDA and all this. You come back thousands of years, people were on a ketogenic diet. There was not the abundance of carbohydrates was not available. Okay, they were eating animals, what came from animals, what they can grow, and they were extremely active. This was the normal human condition, and every pregnant person throughout history was in ketosis the entire pregnancy and during breastfeeding. Do you need a study then to prove that that's okay? I always say, there's no study to show that a parachute works. You're going to jump out of the airplane without one because there's not a study? Okay, no, there's some things you intrinsically know. Okay, you can look outside and see the sun comes up every morning. You really don't need a study to prove it. Okay, so when women ask me about this, I'm like, look, this. You go back generations, this is the way that your great grandmothers and so this is the way they did it. And so I don't find that it's unless someone can come along and explain how that caused some great public health problem, which I've never heard a reasonable intellectual explanation of that, then I don't have any problem with it. I think you go right back on a ketogenic diet. I don't have a problem if you're on one during pregnancy. Right? I really don't. Right.
And keep in mind too, when we talk about ancestors, but there are populations living today that live in ketosis.
Yes.
There are tribes and the Inuit, and, in areas where you can't grow strawberries and, sweet potatoes and stuff. They don't have the ability to do that. Right. So they live on animals and products of animals.
That's right.
Almost exclusively, sometimes exclusively. So it's not just let's look at history. We're looking at the present as well.
That's right. There are places around the globe. There are tribes, for example, in some parts of Africa where it's religious. They don't believe in eating anything other than animals. It's sacrilegious if you try. These are very healthy people. And, anyway, so I would take that into consideration when you make your decision about whether you want to go back on the ketogenic diet. There are great keto recipes, by the way, on the Casual Keto Doctor Instagram site. And I mean, we got a ton. And they're really good. They're really good. So if you're on Instagram, look up the Casual Keto Doctor. That's me. And you'll find, we got a lot of followers and we got a lot of great recipes on there.
And Morgan, give us a call. We absolutely will see you following your pregnancy to help you if it's weight control that you're looking for. All right. So Rose P from Durham. Do you treat many vegetarians at your practice? If so, what types of diets and supplements do you recommend? So I'm gonna let you start out with this one.
Yeah, look, we do treat vegetarians. I treat vegans and vegetarians.
Yes.
I don't put such a big emphasis. Look, it's fine if they want to try to do a ketogenic diet. It's a little harder to do that. You got to be more selective. It narrows your choices a little bit when you're doing a vegetarian or a vegan diet and trying to stay in ketosis. But, I've said this before, the keto diet's not the only diet, and you can lose weight using other methods. So a lot of times, many of these patients, I give them a choice. I'm not here to dictate to them like some sort of overlord. Hey, here's what you have to do. We want to do something that you want to do. And in many cases, it's just a calorie-based diet. Okay. And so you pick the items, but we stay within a certain calorie range. We give you the medicine to help you pull that off. And that's fine. We'll support you through that, and we're not going to try to make you feel weird or guilty. If you want to do them, that's great. That's fine.
I completely agree.
Yeah.
And as far as the supplements, it kind of depends on what type of vegetarian you are. If you're a vegan, then you absolutely are going to need certain supplements. Things that will not be occurring naturally in any of the things that you're eating, or at least not any bioavailable forms of them. If you're a vegetarian or a pescatarian, still eating fish and eggs and things, that's going to be a very different conversation when it comes to supplements. So B12 is one just to throw out there. A lot of people who are not eating animal products will need to supplement with vitamin B12, either in an injectable form or a sublingual form is typically best, a liquid or a spray or like a lozenge that dissolves in your mouth. But we can talk to you more about that, Rose, if you want to make an appointment, for sure. So thank you for that question. We have one final question here from Jenny H. from Raleigh. How long do I need to be taking CBD before feeling its effects? So,
okay. Well, I would say that depends, and depends on what you want to feel. CBD does different things for different people. And I mean, common things that we see patients really liking it for are an improvement in anxiety and depression. Their mood is better. They sleep better. They have a lot less inflammatory pain. But there's not necessarily a dosing guideline for this, like there is, say, on medicines that are approved through the FDA. So, by the way, a high dose form of CBD is approved by the FDA for intractable seizures.
Right.
I mean, it's really high. So they obviously the FDA wouldn't have approved it if it wasn't safe. So I think you got a lot of room to play with this dosing, is my point. So when I tell people take a dropper full of the stuff a day, which is 40 milligrams, you're not noticing an effect on whatever it is you're trying.
Lavender and vanilla.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, they kind of do a little flavoring in there, so it tastes like a hemp plant, right? So anyway, so I think that you should be able to start telling a difference within the first week. And if you're not telling a difference in whatever it is you're trying to treat, then I would suggest maybe doubling the dose, double or even tripling the dose for a period of time to see, hey, how does this make me feel?
I completely agree. And we have a special running right now, and we have for a while kind of like a Lipotropic specials where it's 50% off all of our CBD products. So we have the tinctures, which I think Jenny H is referring to, and we just addressed, but we also have topical products, creams, lotions, salves, a butter. And those can be really nice for individuals who need really localized treatment, like on an elbow or shoulder, the back, the hip, the knee. It's
like my back. That stuff works.
Yeah.
It absolutely is good for a golfer's back. I can attest to that. Look, we're going to put out a holiday gift guide by the end of the week, and that'll have some CBD in there. So be looking for that on your email. We want you to know about some of the things, highlight some of those things. They're great gifts to give to people, you know. CBD is very popular, and this is a really good gift to give to somebody. Good thing to put in their stocking. They always like it. You know, a sweater they may or may not like.
Right.
You know, I'm just saying. I've gotten some weird underwear over the years from family members. I mean, I didn't really need that. You know, so I'd much rather have the CBDs.
Right. Opt for the CBD. Is the moral of that story.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And that gift guide will likely include some of our Metagenics products, which are like a great multivitamin. If you have a family member who's been saying, I don't know what to buy, I'm overwhelmed, just get them a really, really high quality pharmaceutical grade, magnesium, vitamin C with everything going on, vitamin D. We carry all of that in the office here. And then, of course, all of the products behind us that you always get to see every time we're here.
Yeah. Get them a pie or cake. Get them something that's healthy for them.
Yeah. And
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Instead of getting like a
health.
bag of M&Ms, get them a nice protein bar for the stocking, a protein chip stocking stuffer.
All right. So we've come to the end here.
Yeah.
So thanks, everybody, for watching. We're going to be back again in 2 weeks. Visit us at simonsmetabolics.com to check out more about our practice and more about this event, more about a ton of information that's on there. It's a great site, simonsmetabolics.com. We'll see you in 2 weeks.
Thanks, everyone.